Hello, everybody. Welcome to Legacy Living TV. We've taken a couple week break here. I enjoyed a little bit of the flu 2 weeks ago, and then my baby sister got married last week, so I was very invested in that experience. Excited to be coming back here to chat with all of you, and more importantly, I'm super excited to be introducing all of you to this amazing, beautiful woman that's here with me. This is Morgan Field. She is an intuitive life coach. She works a lot with women. She does work with some men, primarily women, on really stepping in and embracing their truth and creating an epic, sexy life. So she actually has a book. You guys can check her out. She's an Amazon best-selling author. She is on there. I think you can just go search her name, and the title of her book is Epic Sexy You. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome everybody who's now joining us. We're going to dive in and chat here a little bit. So to get started, we're going to have Morgan just kind of do a little brief intro about herself, maybe tell you some of the projects she's working on right now that have you excited, and maybe tell them a little bit about this mountain you're going to go climb here in a few days.
So being a life coach, I think one of the best accountability pieces is if you're going to help others chase their dreams and create a life on their wildest imagination, then you best believe you better be doing it too. So, in the corporate world, you get like a 401k and health benefits. And in the entrepreneur world of coaching, you get the accountability of chasing your dreams. So for me, I've done so many things. Like you said, I'm a bestseller. The success that my business has had has just blown my own mind. And so I've gotten to this point where I'm like, well, I need to continue to stretch myself, not only in my business and also in my personal life. So I was like, I lean into fear. So I asked myself, I'm always asking myself, very radically honest with myself, what am I afraid of? And I realized someone had invited me to climb a mountain. And I just remember that feeling of like, oh my God, that's crazy. Because I've never even gone hiking on a mountain before, ever, right? So I signed up for a 5-day mountain climb, and it's coming up this weekend. So I'm super excited. And then just some projects I'm working on. One of the other stretch zone pieces that I had for my business this year, usually I'll do like 2 or 3 retreats. This year I decided to do 5, and 4 of which are all international, and they all start next month. So I have 4 starting next month that are just, so I've got Europe coming up, I've got Jamaica coming up, I've got Iceland coming up, and Australia. And so what's really cool about those is just taking the intuitive life coaching, the soul coaching, the digging deep. We have a topic of every retreat, and then we go and we experience things so that we can integrate them. So you and I were talking about this a little bit beforehand. It's not about learning it in your logic. It's about being it in your body so that you can feel it. And that's what those retreats are all about, which is why they're so powerful, is it integrates the learning and the knowing, mind, body, soul, while we're there, so that you can walk away having actually experienced it so you can feel it, which changes everything.
I love that. And something that I've been really thinking quite a bit about actually is how powerful it is to be in person. So it's amazing right now. We're here, we're streaming this. I've got followers from all around the world, as do you, that can be tuning in here and be connecting with us and feeling and experiencing our energy from all over the planet. And there's certainly something very, very powerful and activating when you're in the physical presence of someone, when you're actually there with them. And that's what's so beautiful about retreats and about in-person stuff. The majority of my clients, it's all over the phone, and we do a lot online, and it does create some powerful shifting for them, certainly. And it's so fun to get in person and to feel the frequency in your body of really being live with that person. Something I've experienced, and you could probably relate to this, is people will meet me in person, and I'm so tooting my own horn here right now, which is so fun, right? But I had a woman that has been following me online for quite some time from the other side of the country that met up with me over the wedding thing. She was invited, and she's like, oh my gosh, I've been following you for so long. You're so much prettier in person. I was like, oh, thank you. Right. So if you guys think I'm gorgeous, just wait till you meet me in person. But and then another thing is, like, when you meet someone that you've been following online and you're actually, like, right now, like the energy that we're wanting to convey and share with you is being filtered through this little camera and through the internet and through the computers. When you're in person, it's like, it's almost overwhelming because the energy is just that much bigger. It's like, take what you experience here and times it by like 1,000, right? And it's really transformational. I remember, and this may be a silly story, but we actually, Morgan and I met through a Tony Robbins retreat event that we went and did in Fiji, which was super cool. Just a really cool experience to see how other people love to run their experiences for creating transformation on the planet and learn from, like, Tony Robbins, I would say, is probably in the male world, like the archetype of a coach, right? He's like the dude that really kind of led the way in creating, well, one of them, right? There's a lot of amazing men that have led the way, but, where was I going to go with this? Oh, I remember the first time I met him in person and I shook his hand. And I'd seen him at events and he'd walked close to me and I'd been near him. But when you actually are there and his full energy is focused on you, and I bet you can really relate to this, Morgan, it's like you feel it in your whole system. And it's like a little bit overwhelming. I mean, I've experienced it with people where they meet me for the first time, they'll actually cry because it's like the energy. There's just this love and this knowing because they've already followed me, and then they feel my real authentic love for them, and then they feel the space I choose to live in, like the energy and the vibration, and they get excited, and it helps them activate into that same frequency. Can you relate to that?
It makes so much sense. What I keep hearing too, so is the fact that, and I love watching you because I can see when you're like channeling guidance, and then I do the same thing. It's like the eyes go up and you're like, who are you talking to? So what I'm hearing is there are people that are light workers here, and I feel like you're one and I'm one, that we can actually see who someone is and not see their human self. I mean, we see that as well, but like their core soul, like soul essence. And I feel like Tony has that ability as well. And so when you're seen, it's like the most powerful validation, and you can feel it. So it's one thing, like our mind tells us stories, right? So if you're being seen via the phone or online, the mind's like, well, they don't really know you, or they, but then when you're in person and you feel that, it's a totally different experience. And what I love is, so I work with people one-on-one, also all virtual. I work with over 15 different countries and counting. It's completely virtual. So then I also have an online community. And then I also have which is like, we do a lot of video stuff. So we all get together as a tribe and do like video coaching and different things. And then the retreats. So what's really cool is a lot of the women talk about how different each of those experiences are. And that it's like they forget, because I have women who sign up to go to all of the retreats for the year. And there are women that forget, like they show up and they're like, I forget how powerful it is to be in person and live. It is powerful to be on the phone. It is powerful to see the video. And then in person, I'm getting goosebumps everywhere. It's so, you feel it. It's completely different. So yes, I agree with you.
Yeah. Well, and something else that I really want people to consider and remember. I'm getting weird. I don't know what that is. Can you hear it? Are you good?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So I just get to listen to myself. All right, I just silenced my computer. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I just won't be able to hear you until it's your turn. I'll unmute myself. So I'm just going to rant, and you won't even be able to interject. But so something else that's so beautiful about that is anytime there's a retreat or a class or an event or an experience, even right now with people who are watching live or who are popping in and out, for those of you who are watching us, is when you go to a retreat or you go to a class or you have an experience, you create a unique, almost entity, if you will. Everybody's unique energy and experience is all coming together in that moment, and it's creating something that's never before been created because of unique people that are all there, and it's so powerful. It's not just about going and getting to meet with the coach or the guru or whoever it is that's leading the experience, because oftentimes the student is the teacher and the teacher is the student, and it's a beautiful exchange. Not only that, the women or the men or just the group of individuals, the beings that you get to interact with, is so powerful. And the relationships and the connections that you can make through those experiences, you never know when they're going to come full circle. Like right now, Morgan and I'm actually going to totally just go here. She'll probably even know this is true. But when I went to Fiji, which was 2.5, 3 years ago now, I think. Totally different space in my life, in my finances, in my energy, in my body, in my marriage. Everything was so different. And I was really raunchy. The majority of the time I was there, I was trying to maintain a high vibe, but I was so triggered by so many things. And one of the people who triggered me the absolute most there was this gorgeous woman that's right here on the split screen with me. I remember walking out one day and saying to my husband, I don't even know that girl, but she's driving me crazy. He's like, what girl? Like, he's oblivious to like what's going on. But I'm like, she's driving me crazy. She's driving me crazy. And I remember saying that one time. And it's so funny because I received this insight or this intuition to reach out to Morgan. We haven't been in connection at all since then, just a few comments here and there. I've a little bit followed her journey, but I just felt so inspired, like, okay, it's time to reach out to her. And it's so interesting as we grow and shift, we realize like those triggers are our own stuff. Right? Part of what was triggering me about her was some things that I really got to like look at, change, adjust, heal through, to where now here we are chitty chatting and she's not annoying me at all.
Well, and what I love about that, and thank you for sharing that, because I always tell, like, in our community, I'm always like, let's share our triggers. We're going to trigger each other. Let's be generous with them. And the number one trigger that I hear about in the community is that people are triggered by other people when they actually, it's really something we can channel into inspiration, which it sounds like is what you did, right? You were like, oh, okay, this is all about my own self-exploration and self-discovery. So I feel like triggers, we always celebrate them, which is kind of mentally creates a bit of a haywire in the system. They're like when someone's really triggered at a retreat, I'm like, yes, I am excited you're triggered. And they're like, what? You know, and it's because triggers are also our entry points into growth if we choose to enter them. It's like this beautiful portal opens up. So I'm really excited. And it's like, in a way, we can either be triggered when someone's triggered by us, or we can be honored. And I have had to take it's taken a lot of practice for me to be honored by that and to see it as like my own soul badge of courage. And with like, it's like, yeah, I'm going to continue being the light that I am, because I know that triggers a lot of people. And I know that triggers are actually really, really beneficial for people, because it allows them the opportunity to get curious. Like, I remember there was this woman, and it was early on in my journey, but I had already transformed physically into this vessel. And I had shed a lot of weight and really a lot of the health struggles I was going through. I cleared all of those, but I was still in this process of expansion in my soul, stepping into my goddess energy. And I remember seeing this woman who was just so incredibly gorgeous. And I got really triggered. And I was like, whoa, what is that all about? Like, you are also gorgeous. What are you doing? You know, this compare and despair thing that happens a lot with us. And so I stopped and I asked myself, okay, if I can channel this into, because I was experiencing like a version of jealousy, right? Which was just this weird thing. And I was like, how can I use this? How can I harness this? And I was like, what does she have, or what is she experiencing that I actually am inspired to be more of? Yeah. And then I realized, you know, like she just had that, she was always smiling and she just had this like beautiful aura to her. And I mean, she just, you know, she just really owned herself. And I was like, okay, got it. Cause I'm already physically where I wanted to be. It just didn't have, you know, so it inspired me to just allow myself to step more into my light. And then her and I became really good friends. So it was this really, and then she became this template for me of like, yes, stay in my light. She, you know, she's like a ball of love, be a ball of love, like, you know, so I love that.
It's so good. It's so true. And that's something that, that I've really enjoyed embracing, is being the provoker. Sometimes we get to be the provoker and realizing that when people are angry, or people unfollow me, or people block me, or people message me, or people do whatever, that as long as I continue to stand in my truth, I'm always serving. Always. Even if on the outset, someone gets triggered into some sort of negativity or emotional place and they choose to, you know, ride that current into a darker, more negative, frustrating place for them, that I'm still of service because I showed up and I spoke what was truth, what was coming through me, and honored that. And what it really does is it gives people permission to do the same. And oftentimes I find This actually happened with a woman. My very first coaching program that I launched here in Boise, she was the first person to ever sign up, and she hated my whole program. I didn't realize how much she hated it, but she was mad. Near the end, there was something I asked her to do. There was a process that she got to do to really heal and release some from things from her past. She did not want to do it. She was so pissed at me. I didn't know how pissed because I was just living oblivious. You know, when you're in a high vibe and you love yourself, you really kind of miss all of the, contradictory evidence that could be coming to you. So I didn't even realize like how much I had triggered the crap out of this woman until a year later. I guess she was at some sort of convention for a company or something like that and had a complete explosion because somebody said to her, well, what would Nancy Ray say? And she was like, I'm not a fan. And she just blew up about me. And then a few months later, we got to meet and we went to coffee and we chatted and stuff. And it ended up being a really beautiful process for her of kind of cracking open a shell of things that she hadn't looked at, of her own potentials that she hadn't embraced, and realizing that even though sometimes it doesn't go the way we thought in our logic that it should go, that as long as we are showing up and saying, I'm here to be of service to the highest truth and compassion, that we will be led to the experiences. And even if for other people it's not their favorite day, eventually it will be a day of healing for them.
Yeah, and what I notice actually a lot with my clients is and I notice this in society as well, right, is a lot of times the easier thing to do is to not trigger people, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the people pleasing, the disease to please, right? It's like the love hustle. We're walking around going, okay, like, what do I need to do to make sure you like me? And what do I need to do to and like, as women, we have this connection radar, like, oh crap, we broke our connection, and men have it too, right? It's just like, and so it's just like, oh no, I broke rapport, and there's like, and it's uncomfortable. So oftentimes we'll compromise ourselves in order to rebuild the connection. And what I've also realized is a lot of parents do this with their children because it's easier, right? And so what I have really made a strong commitment in my own coaching, and I'm very upfront about this with people, because I'm not going to be everyone's jam, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I've learned be upfront with what to expect. And so I'm like, hey, I'm going to trigger you and it's a gift. And they're like, what? I'm like, yes, you're going to dislike me sometimes. There are going to be things I'm going to ask you to do that are uncomfortable. You're going to fall. You're going to fail. It's going to hurt, And then I said, and my promise to you is I will not carry you. When you fall, I will not carry you. And they're always like, what? Because what does a mother do? Right? A mother will pick you up and she will carry you, and it's out of love and it's nurturing. And so a lot of times that's what we received from our parents is it's more codependent caretaking, but it's masked in love. So that's how I grew up. And so I really broke free of a lot of that on my own journey. And so I know the gift that it is when someone, I do a lot of work with avatars. So the goddess is an avatar and Victima is an avatar, where we go totally dead weight. And so my agreement with my tribe is when you go Victima, when you go dead weight, you are not putting in your half. I will not meet you. Nope, I'm out, right? You want to step back up and come in and put in your half? I will meet you. I can work with trying. I cannot work with dead weight. And so what's interesting is, in a way, it's like reparenting ourselves and teaching people how to, that's where it's owning your power. Because how insulting is it? I in my own personal philosophy, I find it insulting that to their soul that they think they even need to be carried. You're strong. You've got this. And so sometimes we just never had anyone in our life that's like, dude, you've so got this. I'm not going to pick you up. Pick yourself up.
Yeah.
Now that's different than you're down and you need some love. Totally. But there's a difference between like a need some love energy, need to vent, and a victima energy where you want someone else to do the work for you because other people did the work for you in your life. And I am an energy reader and can feel the difference. So that's my agreement with my tribe.
Ooh, that's a beautiful agreement. I really love that. It's true. And it's so powerful. And what was I going to say about that? Along that line, I don't even remember. It must not be important. But what I think that people get to realize and understand is that we each really get to own our own experience and recognize that other people can't do it for you. I remember the first big coach I invested in. It was like my first big, huge, like above $500 for a workshop investment. It was about 5, 6 years ago. And it was like, I think around 20 grand. And it was like this big sum of money. And at the time I was, my husband had just finished law school. We were broke off our asses. Like we had no money. And it was so scary for so many reasons. And it was one of the most transformational experiences of my life because I really put that money on the line. And what ended up happening was I learned a lot from that coaching experience of how I didn't want to coach. And I was a little bit abandoned, like thrown to the wolves, which wasn't actually in the agreement as far as it was a business coaching experience. And a lot of things weren't in integrity with the original contract, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And however, when your soul makes a contract, when your soul makes an investment, you always receive if you're willing to receive. And that's what people get to realize and understand is when you invest in coaching, it's not about the coach guaranteeing you the result. It's about you guaranteeing yourself that you will receive the benefit. And recognizing that when you make a commitment, when you make an investment, there is a laws of the universe of an exchange. And the only way you will not receive that is if you block it. And so I did receive amazing benefit from that experience. I learned so much, but one of the most powerful things was when I signed up for that course, I put a down payment and then I got to make some monthly payments and they were a big sum of money. And it was I just launched my coaching business as it stands today. And so I had, at this point, zero. I didn't have a topic. I didn't have a logo. I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything. It was adorable. And I now had to pay $3,000 a month for this program. So I started my business with a $3,000 a month deficit. We had no savings. I had nowhere to pull this money from. But what it did do was there was a few days I spent in my bed feeling sorry for myself, the Victima energy, dead weight. And then what happened was it's like a phoenix inside me, like burst out of I'm not going down without a fight and I'm going to make this happen. And I pounded pavement and back in those days, I did a lot of my stuff in the masculine efforting, which we talked about before this call, which we could get into here in a minute. But I pounded pavement, I worked my ass off, and I did my first live event locally, and my total proceeds from that were exactly $3,000, right? Wow. I was able to pay my money. But again, that could go back to my program at the time was just making enough to get by, not really being in a space to receive an abundance and an excess of abundance. And so I don't even remember originally why I went into the story. I guess to go off of what you just said with, you get to give the tough love and the reason it's tough is not because it's tough on them, it's tough on you because you get to not be codependent and you get to, you get to watch the baby that fell over and say, you can stand up by yourself. And you see that they're struggling and they're sad and they're all of these things and you continue to send them love, but you love them enough to not like you would with a baby egg. I don't know if you've heard this, but it's like a chicken's hatching and you break it out of the egg, it actually dies. It's not strong enough to live outside of the egg. So as a coach, we get to facilitate and support that hatching process, but not try to force them to hatch on our time frame.
Yes. And to put some masculine, feminine language to this, which has been really like this cool aha for me. Cause I feel like in coaching, you're right. The student is the teacher and the teacher is the student. And it's like one of my favorite things. I grow every time I have a session. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing that too. I have to be the leader of the pack. So I've got to do that so that I can guide people through that. What the masculine, feminine energy around what we're talking about is accountability is a masculine thing. Okay. So we can consciously leverage masculinity if you're a divine feminine energy at the core of who you are. And it's just what has happened is the masculinization of business. I mean, if you think about it, when women walked into the business world, I actually have a talk on YouTube about this. When women walked into the business world, the template that they walked into was a masculine template without even consciously realizing it. So being accountable for someone else's results, the word accountable and results are both masculine as well as responsibility. So when you are nurturing and supporting and guiding, feminine. So what I have learned to do in my coaching is to totally embrace the divine feminine. And even when I do that, I lean back actually. The divine feminine energy, that goddess energy, she leans back because she knows, like you said, you've got this. I'm not responsible. You are. And actually your responsibility is your power. So you need to be the one that, you know, to your point, is crack out of the egg. I always use the butterfly metamorphosis analogy, right? The caterpillar, and when it's coming out of its cocoon, if you cut it open, same thing. Well, it may not die, but it's not going to be able to fly. I think that's what's happened in our society. And I even see some coaches who do this, coaches who feel accountable and responsible for the results, and they're doing the love hustle. Because you're right, tough love is hard as crap on me. You know, like it's incredibly hard to watch someone you love struggle, and yet I always remind myself, I anchor into that metamorphosis, because if you cut that open, they're not necessarily going to die, but they're going to not have the tools that they need to fly. And in my tribe, we fly.
I love it. So good. So, so good. So with that, let's kind of return to this goddess theme really quickly.
Yeah,
I would love to just hear, so for the women that are out there and even the men, because we talked about this briefly before, that we all have feminine energy. And it's really interesting how sometimes in the world, this word feminine has all these interesting attachments that aren't actually, they're kind of a counterfeit, that don't really describe it. But, you know, I've seen in a lot of men that their feminine side in their mind means weakness, means, you know, pansy, pussy, like all of these, you know, you throw a ball like a girl, all these negative connotations, when what we forget is that we all have both. And that's how you create. That's actually how you create, is you take the inspiration and then you take the action, the inspired action, and then it creates. And you get to receive as well. There's like the give and take in all of this, the give and receive. And so I would just love to hear your insights into this, because I know you work on this a lot you've worked on a lot with yourself, and then with your clients, you do this quite a lot. Where is the starting place for someone who's like, okay, I'm ready to return to my essence, whether they're a female that's really wanting to live in the goddess energy, or a man that's wanting to reawaken their feminine energy in a healthy way that's in light and compassion. Where do they start? Where do you start?
That's a great question. And I kind of feel like the reason that coaching, especially like a one-on-one coaching, is so powerful is it's going to be different for everyone. I can give you some idea. It's like the world of nutrition, right? Like you can scientifically prove one thing to be true with one body, and then the next body you can scientifically prove the complete diabolically opposing truth. So it's the same thing in coaching. The first thing that I hear though is, and I watched you transform as well, is our physicality. So for women, I'm speaking to women here, our physicality really, it's just a human thing where we have learned that like external is how we validate. So eventually I help people shift that to become internal validators. However, let's leverage your neural pathways you're already using. And I look at, you know, how are you physically embodying the divine feminine energy? So for me, I went from unconsciously wearing power suits to work. I was in the corporate world for 8 years, very, very masculine energy, very successful, but I was sick all the time and tired and didn't have healthy relationships and overweight. And so what happened was I started to consciously wear skirts and dresses and high heels. And I noticed I walked different and I felt different. And for some people listening, this may not be their path. And I'm just saying that because I also know that for some people, that may actually be too much of a stretch. Whereas maybe we can work on creating your goddess avatar. And for some women, they have more of a warrior goddess avatar. So their warrior goddess isn't going to look like, and that's the other thing. I think we compare. And so and it's just like, no, my goddess looks like this. And actually I have several different goddesses. You know, I have a yogi goddess who like loves the spiritual stones, and, you know, and then I've got this like super, super glamorous goddess that loves wearing gowns and wants to be on the red carpet, you know, and like, so I have different variations. And then some of the women I work with have this super powerful warrior goddess that's like, can be misinterpreted as masculine, but it's not. And so we have a spectrum of energy we can pull from on that. So, and then for men, what I notice is tapping into more of the divine feminine energy and leveraging it, which actually really helps them understand women and have empathy and connect with them on a totally different level than they're at. If you're just completely in your masculine, is starting to learn to tap into intuition. So logic tends to be a lot of masculine energy, which is great. It works for them. It doesn't really take a huge toll on them. And then intuition, like really stepping into leveraging more of the flow. So like hustle energy would be more of like that logic masculine. And it doesn't necessarily burn a man out like it would a woman. Whereas for me, when I use hustle, it's a tool. And I take it down from the shelf and I put it back up because I know that flow is actually where I want to be at, right? So it's just, it's different. And I also find with men, the more that they can actually be around someone who is a goddess, the more that they'll be tuned in. So it's really important that we all are just true to who we are in our core energy. So if you're a man and you have, I have some friends that are men that are actually divine feminine. Like that is their core and that's their anchor. And I had one of my best friends growing up who I went to every dance with in high school. He was like masculine, macho, football team, but he was actually feminine. And now that he's in his feminine, he's set himself free. So it's just important that we uncover who we are in our core authenticity and that we align ourselves with that mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, with language. All of it makes a difference.
Yeah. And I would love to add that what I find is, and this is something I figured out really, really big at Date with Destiny. Have you ever been to Date with Destiny?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my absolute favorite program I think I've ever been to. But when I was there and it was on the day where he talks about masculine and feminine energy, I had this huge aha that for so long I would ask the question, what do I need to do to be in my feminine? And I was asking this masculine question, like, what do I need to do? And I kept thinking that there was something I had to do. And what I realized, what I really get to do is release, is relax. When I stop trying to be feminine, that's when I'm the most feminine. When you stop getting in your head about it and you stop analyzing it and you stop trying to be so specific, that's why it's just about like you said, really being authentic and being true and following that voice. When you feel inspired, when you hear something, you get to do it and you get to act on it and you get to recognize and realize that you are not going to be able to logic it. And that's what I see a lot of my clients can get stuck in sometimes, is wanting to mentally understand it rather than emotionally basically embrace it. And it's a very different experience. And so what I would say is, really, you're so right. It's totally personalized for the individual based on where they're starting. It's like people ask me all the time, well, I want to go to California. I want to go to LA. How do I get there? I'm like, well, I don't even know where you are. Like, where are you right now today? And you can tell me where you are today and I can give you the map, but you're going to have detours along the way. There's going to be places with road constructions. There's going to be road closures. There's going to be potty breaks. There's going to be like accident missed turns where you get to reroute and you're going to hear your GPS rerouting. That's what a coach can be. They can assist you in really tuning in and tapping into the rerouting, right? Because all the answers that you really need are inside you, right? And then that's what it's really about, is connecting to the inner knowing and the remembering. And what I believe a coach really does is hold the space for that and support and lovingly guide and show and also demonstrate what that looks like. And so my biggest piece of advice would be, first, stop trying so damn hard. Stop trying so hard to be feminine and just relax into it. And you'll know you're there when you're feeling more at home in your body. This is why a lot of women aren't in their feminine, I believe, is because they're overweight. Majority of women are overweight or unhealthy in some way. They have sickness or disease in their body. It doesn't feel good to be present in their body right now. So they intentionally eat to disconnect. They intentionally are super busy. I see this with women all the time. I'm sure you can relate. They completely pack their schedule like crazy, overcommit, overwhelmed, flying everywhere, right? To block that feeling of connectedness, because to get to the connectedness, they wade through a little bit of shit, emotional stuff that's backed up that they haven't looked at, and also the physical pain. But what's so crazy is once you're just willing to experience it for just a minute, it releases.
Right.
It's not like months and months of feeling horrible. The minute that you reconnect with your body and you re-choose into loving it and being connected in it as it is, whether it's overweight or sick or whatever, it releases and it's not painful anymore. You're aware of the condition, but it's not pain. It's not like miserable. And anyways, that was a little bit of a rampage. I'd love to hear your tack onto that.
Well, yeah. So I actually talk a lot about, in the book, the way that it starts is it talks about head space versus heart space. And it helps you, it's like a tool or a GPS, you know, like if you're not going to work one-on-one with me, then pack me in your bag, you know, and it's like, and so and I use that language in the book. It's your internal GPS. I mean, I'm helping you learn how to coach yourself. I'm helping you learn how to love yourself. Like, I was just talking about this on a show I did the other day about self-love. And the thing is you can't love someone that you don't know. And so that's the thing too. Instead of who do I need to be, it's just like, well, who are you? Who do you want to be? We're asking ourselves questions. Like, I love that you said that your question was a very masculine question. When I went to Date with Destiny, my primary question was always, what's the point? That's like the most masculine question on the face of the planet. You know, I was always listening for, well, what's the point? What's the point? What's the point? What's the problem? You know, and then it was like, oh, which I was conditioned into because of how successful that made me in my career, in my past life, if you will, when I was in the corporate world. So once I started shifting and like, there's a new way, you know, the feminine way of listening too is just, you know, again, every time I go into my goddess avatar, she's like, she just leans back and a goddess energy just holds the space. It's like this sacred cocoon and she's holding the space. She's not in your shit box with you, you know. And another thing that came up as I was listening to you talk about that is this piece around, I use a coach too. You know, like when I wrote my book, I had a coach to help me work through that process. You know, when I am working through fears, I work with a coach. When I come up against blocks, I work with a coach. I also still work with a therapist, you know? I mean, I understand the power of coaching and therapy and healing and moving forward. And I also understand the power in partnership. You know, and that's why I even love that you reached out. It's like we're collaborating, we're uniting. And that's also very feminine. So I have in October, one of the retreats that we're doing is in Jamaica. And it's all about women that are female soulpreneurs. So you're running your business in your, you know, like you have like a soul mission and an imprint of light legacy you want to leave on the world. And we're all coming together and we're learning how to run it in divine feminine energy, which is all what we're talking about. So it's amazing. It's the collaboration, it's the networking, it's, you know, it's understand. And that's what I love about coaching is when you are coaching in a way where you're embodied in the divine feminine, what ends up happening is it's less about, because I've seen some coaches I've worked with that I actually stopped working with as my own personal choice because their energy was more masculine and not the person, right? But like the energy of the process, it was all about results. And for me, and again, that's masculine. And so for some people that works really well, and so it's about knowing who your jam is and finding the right person. And so for me, I'm all about soulful expansion and growth, right? Because I know that when you grow, outcomes and results just come with it. You know, whereas when you said, like you said, if you're like, I want to be feminine and that, you know, then it's like you're pushing yourself. Whereas like, I want to expand. I'm curious. I want to understand myself. Then you're pulling yourself forward and you're having fun. And then when you're talking about the, like, how do you get from Cali to wherever you are? My thing too is like, I want to know, how do you want to feel on your journey? Right. So like, again, my number one value is fun. So people typically who are drawn into the tribe, they share that value. And people who don't have fun anywhere on their radar and they don't desire to are not a good fit for my tribe. So, and I just know that, right? If you're serious and you love being serious and that like, I'm going to trigger the shit out of you. You're going to hate me. And so totally fine. Got it. So yeah. So I want to know like, okay, well, there's so many different ways you could get where you want to go, but what's the way that would actually excite and delight you the most, right? And so and we have to know ourselves to be able to answer that. And that's what the whole book is about, is it's a guidance tool to help you understand who you are, who you want to be, create yourself, give you permission to love on yourself, give you permission to put yourself on your own priority list, give you permission to even put yourself first sometimes. And it's really cool.
Yeah, I love it. And that's really what it comes down to. I love it when you say, you know, when you're expanding and when you're in that soulful place, that everything really does happen as a natural side effect. It really brings us back to the basis of the law of attraction. If you're seeking outside of yourself for a feeling, you'll never get there. Right. And this is what I tell my clients that are really looking and working on losing weight, is that if you keep saying in your mind, I'll be happy when I've lost the weight, or once I get to Cali, or whatever it is, you'll never really be there. Let's get happy first, and losing the weight just comes as a natural side effect, and everything in your life expands and gets beautiful just as a result. You don't have to effort at it. It just happens. So it's really about going inside. And I really believe at our essence, at our core, we're playful, and we're connected, and we're in joy. And so it's really not about having to become anything or do anything. It's about allowing what we already really know and who we already really are to seep out. And so it's not even really about evolving. It's about emerging. Yeah. And allowing that to step forth and to feel safe in it. And I know for myself, and we all, like, I don't believe, like, okay, it's probably possible that there are people that eventually transcend this, but there's this part within us that wants to return to the oneness that we all know and came from, that fears rejection so hard. And you can define rejection however it is in your experience with your stories and your history, but we have this fear built in. And so it's that fear of rejection, which is, it's a little bit of a paradox, because when we're actually standing in our truth and our authenticity, we're more connected to the oneness than we ever are any other way. But because we so are afraid of disconnection, of people abandoning us or unfollowing us or unliking us or hating us, we find ourselves making these little negotiations and these little compromises and changing our energy. And I can even see it now. Like, it's so funny. As we've been on this interview, I'm like, oh, she's noticed my changing. She's noticed my femininity. So I really want to, not say fuck, or I want to, or like whatever the story is, to like stay in that energy, to like keep, and that's another thing that people don't recognize, is not just the fear of the initial rejection, but the fear of, oh, they like me. Now it's even scarier that they'll leave me.
Yeah.
Right? It's like when you get the new client, it's like there's this moment where you could go, well, I really, like, you tense up. It's like the fear of, it's like, if someone doesn't know me, they reject me, that's one thing. But if you really, really know me and you reject me, oh shit, now I feel like horrible, right?
Yeah.
And so it's in recognizing that the only person who can totally reject us is ourselves.
Right.
And every time that we feel inspired to say fuck and we don't, and I'm saying inspired, not just like, oh, I want to say fuck because it's fun, which it is fun. But when we feel inspired to say it and we don't, we withhold, we just rejected self.
That's right.
We just rejected our truth. And that's the ultimate rejection. It doesn't matter whether our reflection of truth triggers other people or not. We get to love ourselves enough to stand in that. And that is a process that requires some courage and some bravery. And it's not something you just flip the switch and now all of a sudden you're forever authentic. It's something you get to keep re-choosing into. And for me, and I think you've seen my journey here, but I left the church I was raised in and experienced some, people ostracized me a little bit, and there was some experience, and I still feel that and see that and sense that in my family that's still very much a part of that religion, and I want to honor it and love it and respect it. And I also get to honor the truth that's flowing from me.
Yes.
And realizing that it doesn't have to be a sacrifice or a compromise, that I can still love them and support them in their journey and their path with what's true for them and what's resonating and what is assisting their soul in expanding, and not have to put my process on the back burner, or if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And now I'm here. Okay, so I'm gonna. Okay, can you still hear me? Okay. So one of the things, as you're talking about too, is so when I do live speaking engagements and or when I'm at retreats, I'm a total sailor, like linguistically, but it's soulfully inspired, like you said, right? Like there's something, Tony does it too, but it's like there's something intentional about it. Breaks patterns, it creates new neural pathways. So I'm not saying it for any other reason than I'm guided. And I think that's the piece where when we realize we are genuinely conduits and we're like, allow me to serve, then if I said something and you're triggered, that was a gift, right? And if I don't say it, I love what you just said, that I'm rejecting myself in doing that. And so what's interesting, and I catch myself doing that too, where I'll be around someone and I'll filter, and it's a difference between like, you know, if I'm around well, in my family, they swear, so don't mind. But like, if I'm around someone else's family and I know that it would offend them, I will try to, in respect, you know, because I'm creating a win for everyone. However, if I am in a situation where I'm doing a public speaking engagement and or something where people might be invited into the tribe or feel invited in, I don't want people to come in who are going to be triggered by my authenticity. So it is so important that we stay in our authenticity. I call it your lighthouse, right? So like we all have a lighthouse, and it is in the middle of the ocean, and it is like this beckoning, beaming light that is calling in your tribe that are out on the ocean in the boats that actually, they're like, hello, where are you, light? And so we are not doing anyone any favors by turning our light off. And oftentimes what I find, this is what I found when I awoken, was the fact that the people who I had in my like on my little island were actually people that when I turned the light off, they scattered. They were like triggered by my light, or some people, it was too much. And so what was really interesting was I was really sad at first. And I feel like this is a part of the metamorphosis that I talk about in the book as well. And I also talk about sacrifice and reframing that, because I think that's like a super old pattern and we need to just get rid of that altogether. And so there's a new reframe about how selfish sacrifice actually is, because it creates resentment and then you lose the rapport anyways. So either way, you're setting yourself up for failure. And so there's something about really just knowing that along your journey, you are going, when you turn your light on, because I think we're not really afraid of darkness. I think darkness is comfortable. I think we're afraid of the light. Our own light and our own power, which is what I help guide people into. And so, yes, you are going to lose people that were on your island that are, they're like, oh, I don't like this light. And they might try to turn your light off, or, you know, they might even try to tell you that they're turning your light off because they're trying to protect you, right? So they might mask it in love. And really it's their own fear, because they're not in their own light and they're afraid of their light. And so they're afraid of you stepping into your own light. And this is this crazy making thing that happens. And so it's stepping into that and turning your lighthouse on and knowing that there's going to be a lag time between the time when you turn your lighthouse on and you lose people to when the new people come in. Law of energy, it's a vacuum. You create a void, it gets filled. And so we just need to have trust in the process, in ourselves, and our spirits around us, etc.
I love this, because it so illustrates what I've had the opportunity to experience, which is that as I began to level up in my life and expand and step into a new space, not to say that people are necessarily dark because they're running from my light. Like you said, maybe my channeling of the divine is not their jam, right? Maybe my frequency is not the frequency that's going to assist and support them. And so they're absolutely on path and in alignment to be fleeing from that, right? If it's not vibing them, which is beautiful. And so it's allowing them to not be wrong. The people I've had that were clients that, you know, discontinued coaching with me as things began to shift for me, they were ready for a different coach, a different source of guidance or of support in their process. And it's all beautiful. It's not just okay, it's perfect. Because in order for them to evolve and for me to continue to evolve, we get to always stay true to that inner guidance, that authenticity, that truth that's flowing through us. So I love that. And I love that I was so inspired to reach out to you. It was so bizarre and random because we haven't really been in touch. And you know how Facebook like randomly shows you people and doesn't show you people? Like I've got 5,000 friends, but I only see like 20 people's things.
Yeah.
Like something of yours popped through my feed and I was like, oh. And then it was like this, talk to her, reach out to her, do an interview with her. And I was like, okay. So it just kind of flowed. On that same note, I know we've been going at this for a while. This is like the longest episode we've ever had because we've been having so much fun and time doesn't exist, right? So we're just enjoying the flow here. If you're watching this and this idea of really standing in your feminine energy and flow and goddess activation is speaking to you, reach out and follow Morgan Field. Stay connected here with me. I am doing an event here in 2 weeks in Boise. It's actually like a week and a half now. It's next Saturday night, a goddess activation event. Personal message me or reach out to me and we'll get you hooked up with a link to get registered and come and enjoy that experience. Come and be in the energy of living in the goddess and flow. Come hear the stories and the experience. Come meet other goddesses and see other women who are really committed to surrendering into their truth. And absolutely jump on Amazon and buy this woman's book. I can't believe I don't have it yet. It's so funny. I remember when you were like getting the cover put together, I was like, oh, this looks so fun. I'm definitely going to buy it. And then, like I said, I haven't seen you in my feed at all. And I spaced it. So I'm going to jump on and buy it. So run buy Morgan's book, Epic Sexy You.
Yes.
Right? And follow her and go enjoy all the love and the good things that she's constantly putting out for her tribe. And with that, we love you guys. Did you have any last minute words, Morgan?
No, I just want to anchor in because I feel like what you just described is something that a lot of people experience where they hear something. They're like, oh, this person popped in. I'm inspired to reach out to them. And a lot of times we don't take action on that. And for anyone, whether you're a man or a woman, to just have more faith and trust in those whispers, I would say that is the number one thing along the journey that will be the game changer, because it's all about the more you trust yourself, the more confidence you have, the more everything you have, love, money, abundance of everything. And so I love that you did this. And when you reached out, I was like, I have no idea what she's asking me to do, but my answer is yes, And so it's just knowing you can feel it. And there also are times when you can feel the answer is no, but you don't have any logical explanation for it. And I've learned, and that one's really hard, I've learned to say no anyways, even when people are like, but I don't understand. And I'm like, I don't either, but it's still a no. So I love that. I love that you said that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, with that, you guys have a blessed and beautiful day. We love you so much, and we'll see you again really soon. Oh, wait, I have to close this out with this. Remember, Rome was not built in a day. Just make your next choice your best choice, and remember to live your legacy. Love you guys.